The purpose of Retire with Style is to help you discover the retirement income plan that is right for you. The first step is to discover your retirement income personality. Start by going to risaprofile.com/style and sign up to take the industry's first financial personality tool for retirement planning.
Everyone, welcome to a very special edition of Retire with Style. I'm here with my trusted companion, Wade Pfau, and you should have seen the pre-show as we prepped for this. It was awesome. Adventures in podcasting, right? Wade, do you want to intro the group that we have here?
Well, this is our take two, and you did not introduce yourself. I'm with Alex Murguia, but right, we're doing a special episode this week about a joint research project with Blackrock. And this week we do have Rebecca Meskin and Cara Reisman from Blackrock as guests on the episode. And so we're excited to welcome you both to Retire with Style.
Thanks for having us here. We're super excited. I'll just start with a quick intro. Cara Reisman, I lead commercial strategy for the retirement group at Blackrock, which means I'm responsible for sales strategy, sales enablement, product messaging, product development. And again, super excited to be here.
Thanks, Cara. And I'm Rebecca Meskin. I am the COO for our U.S. retirement business. And, just to put that in context a little bit, our U.S. retirement business, which we, formerly think of as U.S. defined contribution, serves over 80,000 plans in the U.S., reaching something in the ballpark of 40 million Americans. We work closely with plan sponsors, with advisors, with record keepers, and other partners to enable more and more people to retire with dignity. We're really happy to be on the show and to talk about some of the research we did together.
No, that's great. Honestly, we're thrilled. And Wade, did you pick up on the phrase "retire with dignity"? I think that's ultimately where we're all going towards. We've worked with other institutions, and this is a theme that really strikes a chord with me, because I think this is the way that we can really, from a common denominator perspective, really make an impact through our research. But to have a chassis like Blackrock behind something like this, we're just tickled pink around that. But Wade, you were saying something?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I just also want to emphasize that listeners aren't familiar with the terminology about DC or defined contribution pensions. This is the world of employer retirement plans, so 401ks and the ilk along those lines. Specifically, Rebecca and Cara represent the defined contribution side of Blackrock.
Okay, and
so it's
that's
a huge. It's where most Americans are keeping their retirement savings. So it's a really important topic for us to delve into further. And so in that regard, Rebecca and Cara, one of the first questions we have for you is that, well, everyone, I think at this point, listeners will understand that BlackRock is one of the leading global asset managers. How exactly does BlackRock think about retirement and the challenges facing retirees today?
So maybe I'll start. And I want to start first by sharing BlackRock's purpose, which is to help more and more people experience financial well-being. So helping millions of people retire with dignity, just to go back to that phrase, is really core to what we do. When we sort of worked on this research together, obviously one of the first things that we're really talking about is just the challenges facing retirees today. Aging demographics, increased life expectancies, market volatility, inflationary pressures, rising healthcare costs. And then kind of just to bring in sort of this DB or DC concept, at the same time, and amid all these challenges, the responsibility to fund that longer retirement is moving to the individual. So really that shift from DB or defined benefit to DC, defined contribution. And today, just to pull an initial stat out there, about 15-ish% of Fortune 500 companies offer a DB plan. So DC plans, or again, defined contribution, have become the norm. Assets today are about 10 trillion and are expected to grow to about 12 trillion in 2026. Really just placing the onus for saving and managing spending in retirement on the individual. The DC industry has made significant strides on helping individuals accumulate assets. But there are gaps just on the decumulation side, or really solving for income in retirement. Blackrock every year puts out a read on retirement survey, and this was our 8th year doing that. And we found that there were the top 3 things that workplace savers, so again, those individuals who are using that defined contribution plan, what they want to know, those top 3 things are what their nest egg will be, how much they can spend each year in retirement, and how long their savings will last. The survey revealed that only 21% of workers are very confident they will have enough money to last through retirement. And what's more is that millions of people don't even have access to that workplace savings plan. So don't even necessarily have access to a defined contribution plan through their employer. So we're really at a critical point in just figuring out how to help individuals address these challenges, and really, again, kind of going back to part of what we're doing on a daily basis in terms of helping more and more individuals retire with dignity.
I think that's great. It's quite some thoughts while you were answering that came to mind is you're right. I mean, there's really has been this transfer, right, from taking, on a company balance sheet, taking those liabilities for retirement and pushing them to the consumers. And effectively, while there's benefits to that, there is a little bit of a vaya con Dios kind of aspect to it, right? And I think I'm always fascinated by, what happens behind an institution, because there's always this thinking where their business is all about the P&L. But in my engagement with you folks, and frankly the whole team at Blackrock that we've been engaged with, there's such a humanistic quality in terms of how you've professed, even though you've said this right now, in all our interactions, it's always been about getting the right solution for consumers. How do we do that? And I'm curious, when you decide to sort of pick on your themes as a company, how do those meetings look like? Does it really start with the human first and you build it out from there, or I don't know, or not, or is it more institutional driven? It seems to me you're really focused on the individual, and there's this bottom up improvement initiative all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll take a first stab at that. I mean, I think as we think about that in regards to our business, the business that Cara and I work in, defined contribution, it sort of takes us to a lot of why we wanted to do this research with you all in the first place. I think there is an interesting sort of tension between what individuals want, what their individual preferences are, and what's best for them in their unique circumstances, and what is most important in a DC construct, which is plans having products and solutions and approaches that can help the largest number of people, in many cases a population that's very heterogeneous. And so what we really wanted to look at through this research and through your RISA framework was, how do we sort of bridge the gap between those individual preferences and solutions and plan preferences, and what they should be, what employers, to your point, companies should be making available to their people. And so I think it would be great to maybe spend a little bit of time if you guys would share sort of how you came to creating the framework and what the framework sort of does.
Sure.
And I think it then helps contextualize like some of what we found in, some of what we built off of in the survey itself the research itself.
I think that's a good point. I'll let Wade expand upon that. But you're right. I mean, you saw certain challenges within, from your worldview. We saw certain challenges within our worldview of what we're seeing. And it's interesting how, we came together to really, see how this RISA framework could help, with regards to this, to the challenges you alluded to earlier. But Wade, you want to kick it off with some findings?
Yeah, absolutely. So longtime listeners of the podcast will be familiar with the RISA, but certainly BlackRock has a much larger reach than we do at this point. So if you are a new listener, let me give kind of the 1 minute introduction or 2 minutes to what the RISA is. It's a framework. So my background coming at this from more the academic side of retirement income, really noting that there are a number of different retirement strategies offered from financial advisors in the consumer media and so forth. And there hasn't really been any sort of framework to help people choose a strategy. Many financial professionals argue that there's one approach that's really best for everyone. And we really don't think that's the case. There are different options out there, and it's important to understand what people's preferences are so that they get aligned with an approach that they're comfortable with. And so to build that framework, we conducted a research project looking at how do people think about retirement income planning. Skipping through all the statistical work, the conclusions that we came to, there's these two primary factors for retirement income. There's the probability-based safety first factor, and this is just your preferences. If you're probability-based, you're more comfortable relying on the idea that stocks will outperform bonds. And so that with a diversified portfolio, you can benefit from market growth as a way to fund your retirement. If you're safety first, even if you believe in the idea that stocks should grow over time, you really are seeking more of a contractual protection behind the strategy to help support your core spending in retirement. So you're, as an individual, either more probability-based or safety first. And then the other factor is optionality versus commitment. If you're optionality oriented, you really value having as much flexibility as possible for your assets. If you have a commitment orientation, there's more the sense that if you can find something that will solve for your lifetime need, you actually would like to commit to that, to lock that in and to not have to worry about it with some nuance around. This will help you manage cognitive decline and so forth, as well as you age. And so with these factors, you put them on a matrix, retirement income style awareness matrix. There's going to be 4 quadrants based on the combinations of those preferences. If you're probability-based and optionality-oriented, this is you're comfortable relying on the market and you want to keep your options open. So that's more of an investment orientation. I'll build a total return investing approach, and I'll spend from that portfolio in retirement. In that conversation we had about defined contribution and defined benefit pensions, this is more of the angle that defined contribution has taken over the last 15, 20 plus years, building diversified investment portfolios, whether through target date funds or elsewhere. But that's one of the styles. And you have opposite of that, if you're safety first oriented, you want contractual protections and committing to a strategy, we call that income protection. And that's more what defined benefit pensions offered in the past. This idea of the employer took on the longevity risk and the market risk to provide a protected lifetime income so that your basics were covered. And then beyond that, that's when you don't put all your monies into that protected income, but you have the diversified portfolio on top of that for more discretionary types of goals. Then the other 2 quadrants are more behavioral in nature. It's if you're safety first and optionality oriented, that's more of a bucketing or time segmentation approach where you just invest differently based on the time horizon. And if you're probability based and commitment oriented, this is more you're comfortable relying on the market, but you also want to commit to a strategy. There's also some sense you may be more worried about outliving your money and so forth. So though you want that market exposure, you also want to build guardrails behind that and have some sort of protections behind what you're doing so that you're not fully exposed to the market. And so that leads to 4 different retirement income styles. And it's a framework we've been working to establish, looking at a national level with surveys, and then working with Blackrock to build a national study. And in this study, we had close to 2,000 individuals that were part of the research project, individuals who do participate in defined contribution plans. And then just trying to get a better sense of what those individuals were looking for, how those preferences were distributed in the population, to get a better sense of what kind of conclusions could we make about defined contribution plan participants and what they're looking for retirement. So when they make that transition into retirement, what sort of style do they exhibit? And then alternatively, what sort of financial products or approaches or strategies could defined contribution plans potentially provide to help manage and meet the preferences of these individuals to the highest degree possible, given the constraints that often in defined contribution, you don't know a lot about the individuals. You know their age, but in many times you don't get to create the full financial plan. So how can you provide solutions that will resonate with the largest group of people and provide a solution that can help them as they think about that transition towards retirement?
No, Wade, thank you for shedding light on that with a little sort of preamble on setting the stage. But yeah, no, I think it speaks to really trying to find how people want to source retirement income, and within the defined contribution space, really trying to develop a state of the art around that. That being the case, for Cara or Rebecca, what would you say attracted you to this framework, the RISA framework, and to working together on this research?
Yeah, so I think, to Wade's point, different respondents identified with different styles, with different preferences. But we definitely saw, which was consistent with prior studies that the team has done, we definitely saw a clustering in a combination of two styles known as total return and income protection. And when you sort of unpack that, we asked questions about, in a DC construct, would you adopt X and Y if it was available in your plan? And what we really found quite interesting was that an overwhelming majority, 84%, indicated that they would choose a retirement income solution that combined investments and insurance with an option to purchase a guaranteed income stream at retirement if it was available in their plan. And to the earlier point I made around this sort of the bridge that DC has to do in finding how to marry individual preferences with what might be best for the overall population. We found that really interesting because I think it sort of pointed to solutions or approaches that can, appeal to the largest majority of people in a plan, which is really valuable in a DC construct. Something else that we found really interesting is Wade mentioned that the RISA framework and the research around the RISA framework is something that the team has been working on for some time and has tested in a variety of different surveys. And what was really interesting was the distribution of results between this study and some of the prior studies were really consistent. And some of those prior studies were done in other market environments. They were done with DC participants, with non-DC participants, savers outside of the DC context, and done with sort of respondents of varied financial knowledge. And so it really demonstrated to us the kind of instinctive nature of a lot of these preferences, and that they're not necessarily that influenced by some of the factors just mentioned, markets, financial knowledge, those with a DC plan, without a DC plan. And so it kind of further validated some of the points around finding solutions or approaches that could appeal to the largest majority of people and how important that is in a DC construct.
No, I think that's a fair point, and it speaks to it's interesting, right? Because it speaks to the validity and reliability of what we're ultimately trying to measure that can point to solutions. And it's always a gold standard, at least in let's say in the psychology realm, when it comes to psychometrics, to try to identify things that are more trait-like than state-like, right? Because if, and for those listening, a state would be a state of happiness, anxiety, something like that. A trait would be introversion, extroversion, something that's more anchored in your personality type. Sure, environmental cues could affect it, but, for the purposes of this podcast, let's just assume it's a pretty steady state. And the fact that you're saying that, there were independent studies from what Wade and I were doing, that you were finding things that rhyme with what we have, than what we found, that's very encouraging. That to me tells me that you can identify preferences for how somebody wants to source retirement income. And, and newsflash, roughly 2/3 of people want something that's more contractually driven than just, relying on the markets, if you will. And so, as an investment manager, that does sort of open up the purview of potential solutions that you could bring to the table that can be a little more bespoke. Obviously there's a mass customization part of it, but it really allows you to really flex the muscles for identifying solutions that are a little more appropriate per style. So I think that's great. The same question is, we tend to live in academia. You can make that argument, Wade and myself. And so one of the things we really want to do with the RISA is practical application. That really is what we're about. We're at the stage in our career that we want to see that more than anything. And so, okay, the research is done. We can all pat ourselves on the back, but how have you been able to utilize this research? What are some conversations that you may be having with clients today in terms of an aha moment or not?
The Retirement Researcher Retirement Income Challenge has started up, and we had a great first day yesterday. But if you missed your chance to take part, don't worry. You can join our Retirement Income Challenge waitlist so you don't miss out next time. And make sure that you're able to join Wade, Alex, and I. To sign up for the waitlist, head over to risaprofile.com/podcast. Again, that's risaprofile.com/podcast. See you in the challenge, next time at least.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's incumbent upon us to stay in front of our clients, to just really make sure that we're helping them help sort of their participants and those individuals address the challenges that we've been talking about. In the U.S., we know that that savers want income in retirement and employers want to provide it. Just to go back to that Read on Retirement survey I referenced, another stat was almost all, I think it was 98% of employers feel responsible for helping their savers on this decision, but most don't feel highly confident that the plan can. So given that people want it, employers, want to provide it, I think the industry is really rallying sort of together and really aligned to sort of figure out how we can innovate to deliver that more predictability of income in retirement. And so as we saw in the study, and as we've referenced, in terms of the findings and sort of how this relates to kind of the DC construct, investments and insurance together is a powerful combination. Blackrock is developing a solution and one that's resonating with clients that embeds guaranteed income within a target date solution. A target date, which is something that participants use today. We know they understand. So it's really about meeting participants where they are. And I think, as the research has really indicated, there is this opportunity for DC plan fiduciaries to offer solutions that kind of meet the retirement spending preferences of the greatest number of people. And in a form where, again, kind of, participants understand it, are familiar. And so that's sort of what we're thinking about kind of from a Blackrock perspective. But again, there's other, other innovations coming out. And again, it's just really encouraging, I think, that you're seeing the industry really rally behind this to align on new ways that we can help individuals address the challenges that we've been talking about.
And I'll just add, too, that's something that really attracted us to work with Blackrock on this was that solution that you are developing that provides that sort of optionality. And like you mentioned, the 84% statistic that 84% of the respondents said they would appreciate having something focusing on investments, but that provides an option to provide a protected lifetime income stream. Just having that, it's like an option to commit. So then further, in the research paper we published with you, it was 60% of that 84% actually thought they might take the lifetime income. But still, that's the other 40% who really valued having an option to create a protected lifetime income. And so that really does look like a favorable step forward in terms of being able to offer flexibility for individuals to go with their style, to go with different approaches based on their preferences. If it is more...
Wade, you're 100% correct. No, I couldn't help myself. Sorry.
Yeah, more of a market-oriented or a contractual-oriented approach. And so, leading into the question then. So really, BlackRock is an asset manager, but there is a recognition that really retirement is more than just an investments problem. And if you could just comment a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to just for one more second on the investments piece, obviously at Blackrock, we have, a life cycle investment process that we run here. Target dates have become sort of the primary investment vehicle within sort of that DC plan construct. It's really the simplest way to get the age-based asset allocation strategy. There has been, a ton of investment and evolution to deliver sort of those optimal retirement outcomes. We've been evolving our target date strategy. We actually just celebrated our 30-year anniversary as a pioneer of target date investing. Thank you. Can't take all the credit, certainly, as I was not here at that time. I won't speak more than that. We pioneered target date investing in 1993, and we've continued to continue to evolve that to deliver sort of those retirement outcomes. And just going back to that retirement confidence piece, I think, if we can kind of figure out how to bring that guaranteed income into the chassis that, individuals are really familiar with, I think we can really sort of get to that place of improving kind of that retirement confidence. But as you said, Wade, there's no silver bullet. It's certainly not just about investments. There are other things that I think, we as an industry are all focused on doing. And I think maybe, Rebecca, you want to talk a little bit more about some other research that we did and just some other conversations we're having with clients.
Yeah, sure. Happy to. So earlier this year, we worked on an interesting piece of research with the Bipartisan Policy Center on the topic of optimizing retirement income. So closely sort of connected with the research we did with RISA, but less from the perspective of preferences and behavioral, the what would you want, and more from how do you actually achieve that? And what the research looked at was an average American 65-year-old and the effects that different levers they could pull would have on their kind of picture in retirement. So the first case study looked at the role of adding guaranteed income and then adjusting asset allocation accordingly. And what it showed was that by making these, 1.5, let's call it, changes, it resulted in nearly 30% more annual spending power while reducing downside risk by over 30% at the same time. We also looked at another case study that evaluated sort of another lever that you could pull, which is the delaying the claiming of Social Security. And I would just say, we fully recognize not everybody can afford to wait to claim Social Security. But for those that can, it's really sort of a trifecta strategy. So it increases the savings horizon, it decreases the spending period, and it increases ultimately the dollar amount of the benefit. And so it can be a really powerful tool to sort of change that picture. But to Cara's point, I think beyond sort of the investments piece, there is also kind of the role that engagement, education, spending guidance plays in reorienting participants from savings to a paycheck in retirement. And I think when you kind of put these two pieces together, it can really dramatically change a saver's ability to be prepared and identify the right solutions to best meet their individual circumstances, the right solutions, the right levers to pull. And kind of when you put all that together, I think it's really powerful. I don't know, Wade or Alex, maybe do you want to share a little bit about some of what we saw in the survey around engagement and education and sort of the role, or not even from the survey, more generally, sure, what you've found in your experience that can do?
Yeah, I mean, that was another part of the research study we did, was looking at the role of professional guidance. And for the defined contribution plan participants, 68% said they wanted to have guidance on how to go about retirement spending. And so that creates an opportunity for plan sponsors. If they can provide that guidance, they're going to have more satisfied plan participants. And So I think that's just when we think beyond just the research study itself, but the opportunities to provide education around retirement income, to be clear that there are different options that are all viable approaches. Just helping people find the solution that's right for them can go a long way towards that. Another statistic that was in the research study was about if you were thinking about how is my allocation going to look between stocks, bonds, lifetime income protections, consistent with other research as well. We found 36% allocation, like the average allocation to lifetime income was 36%. So it shows that there is demand for going beyond only an investments option in the defined contribution world. And so I think that is consistent with other studies that you often see that sort of metric as well.
Yeah, no, I just listening to both of your answers and then Wade now, I'm always struck by, you have Blackrock, the investment manager of investment managers, if you will, and you're trying to figure out retirement income solutions for folks, and you're even recognizing this requires more than just straight up investment management, and we need to just amplify, what we can do for our consumers to bring them to a dignified retirement. I want our listeners to sort of recognize that, because I think it's important that, again, an investment manager is recognizing, hang on, let me take a step back. It's not just about, continuing to, you can have anything you want as long as it's an investment management solution. It's really, how can we really address everyone's needs here? And I just find that like a tip of the hat, from my vantage point, based on what we have going on and what we've seen from others, because it's one of these reoccurring themes that it gives me hope, to really, figure out solutions, because not everyone can afford, an investment advisor. And so hence the importance of having educational pieces inside of defined contribution plans and the like is just, extremely impactful.
I think it's really, Alex, just to maybe spend 1 second on that. I think all of our sort of collective role is really important here. I think the research that you and Wade do in sort of getting out and into the advisor community, and as well as kind of the broader consumer community, is really important too, and kind of raising that awareness. So education is important, products are important, mindset shifts are really important, and that's going to come from, I think, all of these efforts together. And I think the more practical research that is out there to support that mindset shift, I think the more progress we'll see as a collective industry.
No, I agree. Cara?
I was just going to say, I totally agree. I mean, I just think we're at such a critical inflection point. And, I am really encouraged by a lot of the innovation that we're seeing. And I'm encouraged about sort of, again, the desire for greater education. And there are a lot of resources available, and there are a growing amount of resources available. And it's really, how do we bring that education to more and more people so that individuals feel equipped to address this and to know what the options are available to them, so that plan sponsors know what the options are available, to advisors know what the options are available for their clients. So I think the more that we can all do together, I like your point around making it practical. I think, that's sort of the best place that we can be.
No, it has to be practical, because the reality is not everyone, as much as we like to think in this sort of utopian manner, but not everyone will practically be able to hire an advisor. So what solutions can be brought to the table? What education can be brought to plan participants to make sure that we can expand, the services that are available to people in a manner that's, impactful to them. So I can see that, from this. But what do you hope will be the practical impact from this investigation?
I mean, I think just sort of, again, raising awareness that getting more awareness and getting additional education on sort of what are the options available? We obviously have abundant amount of resources, whether it be through the individuals who work with our clients, whether it be through sort of our website, obviously through sort of the investment vehicle that we're developing, or the investment solution that we're developing. But I'd say just to start by, being more aware that there are options out there, and, it's important to think about what is the right option for you as an individual.
And having the conversations, right? I think, you all are out there at conferences, through these podcasts, just sort of the general, just building more awareness and talking about it more, I think is going to help us as an industry make really important steps forward. And I agree with Cara completely about the sort of inflection point. There's been a lot of really good progress on the savings side, and I think there's a lot more that we'll be able to do over the coming decades around the spending side, and making people more prepared to address the spending side.
No, I think that's great. My single parting thought would be, effectively, we have a fair number of consumers and a fair number of advisors that listen to this podcast. So for consumers, individuals, I would say, if you're part of a DC plan, and the only option you have are a couple of mutual funds to pick from or some model portfolios to pick from, now there's things out there that can specifically start to address retirement income, as you retire. And for professionals, the same thing. If all you're offering are model portfolios that are investment only driven, well, it's time to just review the landscape and see what potentially is available to really provide retirement income solutions for the underlying participants. And the other thing I would say is, as you do further research and you want to sort of bring it out there, consider us as a home to be able to spread that message. We're all about innovation, and especially with regards to better solutions for participants. Let us know, and more than happy to discuss that.
That's great. Thank you, guys.
Oh yeah, of course.
We loved being on the show. So thanks for having us.
Yes, many thanks.
No, of course.
Thank you, and thanks for that. That willingness to be flexible in terms of there are different approaches to retirement, and I'm always so satisfied to see that message being used to bring these types of solutions. And like Alex was saying, if your defined contribution plan right now doesn't have anything other than investment fund options, that may change in the future, because there's a big push towards this innovation. And thank you so much for being part of that and being guests on our show this week.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Alrighty, everyone. Thank you, and catch us next week on Retire with Style. And since Wade said I didn't say it, I'll say it now. I'm Alex Murguia. All right.
Wade and Alex are both principals in McLean Asset Management and retirement researcher. Both are SEC-registered investment advisors located in Tysons, Virginia. The opinions expressed in this program are for general informational and educational purposes only, and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual or on any specific securities. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult your financial advisor. All investing comes with a risk, including risk of loss. Past performance does not guarantee future results.